Really? Yes, you did.
For the 4 years.
So we can just. Right. Yeah, so we just state auditor, another big work city attorney. This is a public purpose. Right, we're not getting into competition. Yeah. But then we need a proper procedure. Here's the procedure. How we get a request, here's the template. We need to look at some of the things that no agreements, no contracts. I mean, there's a lot of that. Just cutting our expenses. Just when
What do you say?
yeah, there's no report back.
What is the report?
But last year we had something, so we need to do that. Yeah, do you have a fund set aside to do? No, it's just yeah.
Ready? Yeah, I really don't know what we're doing, so they're just doing what they have done every year, so.
I'll call this meeting to order. Looks like everybody's here. Call the meeting to order at 4:58 PM. January 13th workshop. The only thing on the workshop is to discuss budget requests for police, fire, and animal control. And since they're in that order. Okay. All right. They're going to cede their time to you, Tom.
Well, as most everybody knows, our organization, the animal shelter is 24/7, 365 days a year. We got to operate. We're required by code and by law to keep every dog that is a stray and gets loose in their community for at least 7 to 10 days before we move them or whatever else happens to them down the line. This year has been extremely troubling because we've had an intake of 552 animals come through our shelter, and 275 of them are owner surrenders or strays that have come through, and they're people's dogs, but they just chose not to pick them up. So it's put a large burden on us on that end of the stick. So we're the only show around here in Keokuk. The Humane Society is by name only. They're not operational. They're not taking any animals in. And so when they firstly quit taking animals, we got everything that came through, our city. So my budget's not huge, but the biggest, as most of you know, the biggest portion or one of the largest portion is salaries and benefits, and the rest of it is breaks down into operational supplies, maintaining the building. The building's old, and we've had troubles over the last couple of years with the air conditioning units going out, and heating has to be replaced. Unforeseen, product, and in the middle of your budget, you have to call for permission to get air conditioning and heating put in your building on and make special. Yes, sir.
Just for those who may not know what their budget sheets are, you had budget sheets at your spot for each of the different departments. As he's going through this information, as he's going to go through his budget, the forms that are for the animal control have the 001-190 6010 is wages, would be the top of the column. So if you get to the sheet that has that on it, would be the budget that you're going to be working on. And I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. I probably should have mentioned that. But some of the increases we put in our budget this year is ongoing training costs to stay certified with the National Animal Control. I put it at $850, but it's going to be a retrain thing, which is going to take, a hotel room for like 3 days and go through the course itself to maintain certification. Our telephone budget last year, we were unable to stay within budget means because we were with Windstream, and we were hardwired with old copper wire, and so they didn't want to support that anymore, so they were billing the city like $2,000 a month for our electrical bills. It was not just my department, it was other departments. So it required us to go through to get cell phones at our facility virtually. Our desk 2 phones are now cell phones, and we had to buy routers and other equipment for that. The gas pumps out there at the animal shelter, they required to be operational through a phone, so it had to be upgraded to a cell phone. And we did away with Windstream. And now that we've done that, our bills aren't as high as they used to be, but it was a cost that was unforeseen. And due to the fact that they raised their fee or decided to hold you hostage if you wanted to keep the hardwire lines and not switch over. So, and we have no internet down there. We have hotspots because there is no hardwire internet. They jumped it from the intersection there at the bottom of the hill and went up on the other side from Griffin Wheel down to that location, and then from the location up to Main Street, and left our area with no, so we were operating on a hotspot, which is, it's enough to run the internet, but it's not enough to run a card reader for credit cards and things like that. I also put in there under capital expense $6,500 to complete the conversion of the old chain link kennels in there to the stainless steel kennels that the Rotary Club bought for us initially, the main ones, and did that to no expense to the city. But we did lose a dog to getting hung up on the chain link in there, and it choked itself to death. And if that was anybody's dog that we had to house, they got loose, from them. That type of kennels thing is not used very much anymore because of that. They're dangerous, for dogs get killed in that thing. But that's the largest increase in my budget that we have there. We're pretty much comparable within $300 or $400 to $500 in some aspect where I increased electrical. And I did the electricity a little higher because we never know, because they talk about those rate increases and everything. every other year, it seems like. And so, like I said, there's not a whole lot of increases in there except what I just stated, so. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Line item 6412, you've got an increase there. It says medical for animal control. Can you explain what that line item is, please?
Oh, yeah. Is that animal medical? Did you say 6112?
6412,
6412.
top on the backside.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's due to the amount of, well, what happens is a lot of that's a wash. Anytime we have a dog that gets adopted out of there, that's spayed or neutered, it gets taken to the veterinarian and then when it's adopted, the money comes back to the city. So due to the influx of numbers of dogs we've had come in this last year, we don't expect it to slow down on that aspect of it. If it is a dog that we spay and neuter and it gets sent to a rescue, then the nonprofit we form, Casper, they pay the medical expense. So it's like I said, so it's mostly a wash. Anything that we do with, whether it's Critchell's or Kicker Veterinary Hospital or Two Rivers Veterinarian, comes out of that animal medical. And also we're required by state too to give dogs parvo shots now. We didn't used to be required because of the rampant spread of that. So parvo shots are relatively cheap. I think they're $8 a piece when we get them wholesale like that, but we've included that in that. There is an expensive ad, but it's not a whole lot. But that increase is due to the number of dogs and cats were coming through the area that we're having to get fixed or go to rescue, because 137 dogs of that 552 dogs and cats came through went to rescue. And if those of that 137, all those bills were paid by Casper, our nonprofit. So the city can't lose money. We don't make much money on the adoptions, but it's at least a break-even situation. So.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, at 6507, it's 8,500. You only expended 25 million last time. Was under your operational.
I budgeted a little high in there because I don't know what the expenses are going to be on the operational section of it, but that's dog food, cat food, cleaning supplies, disinfectant for the building, and that kind of thing. And the costs of those have all risen, but we've always given some back. We've never spent that whole amount every budget. But if we get a hoarding situation where we end up with 48 dogs like we have happened one year, we have to maintain those dogs, and it's all hands on deck, and that we lose a lot more supplies when that happens. We had that happen to us a few years back. And so not pad it, but I make sure that there's enough money in there in case we have that unforeseen happen, because when you don't, it's bad, and you got to come asking or, explaining why your budget's way over, on that aspect, but we always have enough money to cover that. But at the end of the year, it comes back to the city what we don't expend.
Do you have something on your capital that you're looking at?
The capital, what we're looking at, that's the price to convert the last 4 chain link kennels and the main kennel that we call the condo. It's a huge one. When we get Great Danes or something big like that, we put them in the center kennel and on that. But we have a makeshift panel in there right now. One of the dogs grabbed it and bit and chewed, bent the wire on it. It's not commercial grade. And what we have that we've done the rest of it in is stainless steel bars. They can't climb them. They're stiff enough they can't bite them and get injured on them. And it would complete our operation and make it, safer for staff and for the animals. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Thanks, Tom. It's like Zeth is next in the box.
Good evening. There's not a whole lot of change to my budget. I think if you look through there, you'll see that what I'm asking for is fiscally sound, given the forecast with the previous 2 years' expenditures. This budget comes in, not including benefits and salary, $3,400 less than last year's budget. Again, that's not including the raises and benefits and salaries. So there will be a higher net expenditure, but as far as the budget line items I control, it's coming in about $3,400 less. If there are any specific line items that you guys have questions on, I'd be more than happy to talk about them and what is purchased out of that line item, or if you have any specific questions. So there is I did ask for a little bit more in line item 6413, payments to other agencies. I asked for $1,000 more. That's due to the state raising one of our fees, which we pay quarterly. It went up a little bit. That's going to make sure that we don't go negative in that line item. The only other increase that I asked for is for 6510. Which is where we purchase our bulletproof vest from, because the vendors have significantly increased the bulletproof vest cost over the years. I asked for a $500 increase there to kind of offset that a little bit. We do also participate in a federal grant that assists with those purchases. Jim, while they're looking through that, because I know it is a little bit larger than the animal control budget, obviously, and slightly larger than, or a little bit larger than the fire department, is there anything specifically that you would like me to address?
Can you speak a little closer?
Sure, sorry about that.
I think maybe go through how your force structure is and how they're divided up into different areas and what you're trying to accomplish with how you are structured in different positions.
Sure. So I think as recently as 20 years ago, I believe our department had 27 or 28. We are currently down to 24 budgeted officers. We have 3 open positions at this time. We have 1 officer in the academy at this time. We have 1 officer in field training at this time. So those 2 do not count as a body on shift yet. Brandon Newland is set to be off of FTO in approximately 10 weeks. He will be assigned to a shift at that time, and he will count as a body. Officer Riddle will not graduate the academy until late April, and then he will have an additional 12 weeks of field training prior to being assigned to a shift and counting as a body. That's important because it just kind of lays out that, yes, we do have those people in our department, but right now they're not a body on a shift. Currently, our command structure is myself and the assistant chief. Below the assistant chief, we have 4 captains. Those positions are currently filled. Below them, we have 2 sergeants. The sergeants work on day shifts. We run 12-hour shifts. The sergeant works on the day shift with the captain, and then when the night shift captain is gone on their respective side, they drop down to nights and cover that supervisory position. Prior to my administration, a few years prior, we had 4 sergeants. It's my understanding that we still budget for those positions. And I would like to, we have a good young core group of guys where we could fill those positions, but that's a conversation for another day because that would require a loss of income for the night shift captains because they make slightly more at this time because they don't have a sergeant. Underneath the sergeants is a detective. We have 2 detective positions due to the significant amount of felony cases, particularly sex abuse investigations, which are very time consuming. We only have 1 detective at this time due to staffing issues. Underneath them, we have two patrolmen per shift. Once Brandon Newland is on his own, so that would be four officers per shift. 1 captain and 3 patrol on nights, and 1 captain, 1 sergeant, and 2 patrol on the day shifts. Again, that will be the status when Mr. Newland gets out of his FTO. Once, we also have a full-time narcotics investigator. That position is not filled right now. It is sitting empty. We are relying on our relationship with the Lee County Narcotics Task Force to continue investigating those types of crimes in Keokuk. Obviously, we handle what we can on patrol, but any felony level offense is typically referred to them and they take the case from there. Once Mr. Riddle completes his FTO and he is assigned to a shift, that will give me enough personnel to assign somebody back down to the drug task force. So we're really addressing that need. As many of you know, substance use is an issue in our area, and that's a very important role to fill. So that's our current structure. Of course, Tom works closely with our department, but he's his own animal, no pun intended. And that leaves 3 open positions currently.
Chief, you mentioned you've got the 2 in training. Are they counted in the 21, or when they get on the field, that gives you up to 23?
They're counted in the 21 because they have been hired and they are employed by the city. So I did want to count them. Yes.
I'm just kind of, the 2 that are still not out on the street, that's Trenton and Orlando?
No, the Trenton and Orlando have both been assigned 2 shifts, and they have been working shifts since late September, early October. They're doing a great job. Mr. Paredes, Orlando, somehow managed to land himself on a day shift. That may change when shift bids come back around, but that's where he
Who are
landed currently.
and I'm sorry, what are the names of the 2 that are in training?
Nolan Riddle is currently in the 2nd week of the academy, 14 weeks to go.
Mhm.
And Brandon Newland, who has graduated the academy on December 19th. So he is 3 to 4 weeks into his FTO process. Okay. And of course, we have the new furry officer that's not counted in that 21.
And you have, you also have a couple of data entry clerks, and you have IT person? How
Yeah,
do they
and real
function?
quick, I want to mention, because I left Officer Date out, we do have an SRO position as well. That position is filled at this time. When she comes out of school in the summer, she is assigned to a shift, depending on where she bid and where her seniority allows her to go. So we do have that position as well, and it is currently filled. Yes, I have a communications supervisor and then 2 data entry clerks.
Chief Bone,
Yes, sir.
looks like there is a pretty big jump in line item 6499.
6429.
6499. Not a jump from 2 years ago, but from last year, it jumped back up another 10 grand. I was just wondering what that was.
Yeah, the Narcotics Task Force, the issue with the Narcotics Task Force, sorry, let me find it on these double-sided sheets here.
Second page.
It says Serve contractual PM.
Yeah, so did you say the Lee County Narcotics Task Force with that?
No.
Okay,
no.
I don't know where I got that from. That's why I was confused. No, yeah, contractual is the contracts that we entered to like our IT, like our IT is $1,600 to $1,700 per month because of all the data that we have to store and the security levels that we have to maintain. So those are the types of expenses that come out of that. And I don't want to say, unfortunately, it's unfortunate that it's such a high expense, but I think we can all agree that body cams are required equipment at this point, and it costs a lot of money to maintain that type of stuff.
And I'm sorry, Chief, I'm going to go back because I'm still trying to go through the sheets that Celeste is given for where staff is at. We have one detective position that sits vacant and then 2 sergeant positions that sit vacant, correct?
Yes.
And then, of course, the narcotics, but that one would be filled by one of the officers once you get people out on the street who are currently in training.
Yes, and the sergeant positions are a little bit unique. At some point, the prior administration made the decision to go from 4 sergeants to 2 sergeants. And when they did that, there was a little bit of bump in pay for the night shift captains to make up for them not having that additional supervisor, which makes it a little bit harder for them to get time off and things of that nature because it requires some schedule shifts. We have continued to budget for those sergeant positions with the idea that at some point when we have the right personnel, we can put them back in that position. Those are not, I guess you could call them 2 of the 3 vacant positions, but I don't require 2 additional, I guess what I'm saying is I don't require 2 additional personnel to fill those sergeant positions. I think we have a great group of guys now, and I think we have the ability to fill those positions in the near future.
Chief, you mentioned relying on the Lee County Sheriff's Department for some of that narcotic task force and investigative stuff right now. So can you share with us how the relationship is going with that department?
Oh, the relationship with the sheriff's office is spectacular. I maintained what I thought was a good relationship with the prior administration as well. This current administration, it is levels above that. We have really made an effort between the sheriff, myself, his command staff, and even the chief in Fort Madison to really look at Lee County as kind of a joint venture. Many of our community outings, you will see where they're supporting each other. So that relationship is good. And you can throw the Iowa State Patrol Division of Narcotics Enforcement in there as well. While that particular unit is a little bit short-staffed, they have some guys in the area that are helping immensely. So where our agreement with them, our MOU, doesn't really allow for extended absences in that particular unit. All 3 agencies have had extended absences, so they understand exactly what we're kind of dealing with right now. And there's a lot of, there's no animosity or anything. They understand that once we have an opportunity to get somebody down there, we will. Yes.
And I should ask this, but Tom was here, and I apologize, so I'm gonna ask you instead. We have one animal control officer, and if that animal control officer isn't on duty 24/7, who takes care of any animal problems when he's not there that day?
We do. The other 16 hours of the day, you can find us removing bats and picking up dogs and taking them out to the animal control shelter out there, and yeah, we take on that responsibility. It's a little bit, it's a little bit easier during night shift when our call volume isn't exactly as high. It can be a little tough during day shift when we have a lot of other things going on, so it may not be a priority at that time during day shift, but yeah, we take on that responsibility. It's not something we would want to do 24 hours a day all year long, though.
It is never a situation where you would call that person in, or would be cause overtime or anything like that?
For animal control, he has come in on very, very special occasions, depending on the animal. I mean, a lot of our guys don't necessarily feel comfortable handling something like a hawk or something like that. We've had a few of those go through the shelter out there. So the answer is yes, but it's limited that we would feel the need to call them in, but
Okay, thank you.
Is that how we look on vehicles?
We had a great schedule to replace vehicles for a few years where we were replacing 3 a year, I think. We're not in a position to do that anymore, so we do have some vehicles getting a little older. We have one which is in my request capital purchases that is reaching 90,000 miles, which doesn't sound like a lot for a personal car, but when you factor in runtime on the engine and do the math, you're equating it to a vehicle that's probably got 130 to 145,000 miles. And it's time for that one to go. Sometimes when we go out there, it'll start. Sometimes it won't. It's not super reliable, but being that it's one of the older of the fleet, it doesn't get driven as often either. So I have taken that schedule with a 5-year plan from asking for 3 vehicles a year down to 1 a year. That was this year. Last year, we had an insurance replacement. We didn't actually have one set to be purchased through capital purchases, but we had one wrecked and it was paid for by insurance. The majority of it, of course, we had the deductible we had to pay.
Chief, I see in line item 6710, which is capital equipment law enforcement, that you've gone from 62,000 down to 0. So is that capital equipment there, projects and anything like that?
That is being moved to a different fund line item, is my understanding.
So that is going into the back of your sheets. You had one that had the Fund 306, so 306-750-6710 at the top. At least in the stack I had, it was the last sheet. It shows capital equipment and capital improvements for facilities. We need to get this broken out so it goes by department, and we'll get that to where it's delineated out. But you did have a capital equipment request in there for 88,000 or 98,000?
98,000, I can go through that.
Yep.
That is for one patrol vehicle that I was talking about, to include the upfit with the equipment. 8 Axon brand tasers. This is the second or third year I've come talking about tasers. They are well past their recommended shelf life of 5 years. They start to, and I'll knock on wood, we haven't seen a failure in the field due to age, but they say that those failures increase by about 50% once they hit that 5-year life.
Chief, are those in addition to what we're going to talk about on Thursday at that council meeting? Or
No.
are these the same ones?
No, same ones,
Okay.
but it's important to talk about that now. I'm glad you asked that question because of the way it fell. I felt like I was going to have to do basically a 2-year plan, buy 4 this year, buy 4 next year. Taser really worked with me, cut us some slack, and they're allowing me to apply the $15,000 that was approved for tasers this year, to apply that in March, and then to pay the other, what will be roughly $20,000 after July 1, so it goes into the next year. So same equipment.
And you got that at a lower price than if you waited and did a contract purchase in July.
Yes, yes. I don't remember what I told you, but I think it was a 6% decrease as compared to, actually after the first of the year, they said it went up, but they went ahead and honored their previous quote because they were the reason they stopped communicating because the salesman went on holiday or whatever.
So on this capital budget, it shows that budget line item for capital equipment, $282,738. Very precise. Out of that, 98,000 is for police equipment.
Yes.
And it's your car, tasers. Was there anything else in that?
Yeah, there was 3 desktop computers.
And nobody asked for capital improvement to facilities, but I was putting in here the 400 and give or take 425,000. I'm trying to max out what we can do within a bond borrow amount. What we're looking to do and we'll be discussing at some point over the next month is doing a short-term borrowing. We will do a borrowing where we get the money in July and pay it off like 6 months later. We will use local option sales tax to pay for it. We'll borrow for it. It's eligible to have a debt service levy, but we'll reduce the debt service levy and offset it with sales tax dollars so we can show property tax relief. And the reason to put in, the 425,000 isn't necessarily going to cover everything that needs done down at your facility, but you need to get a roof done on that. You're having water. You want to explain some of the issues you guys are dealing with?
Yeah, that's really the issue is we continue to get to spring leaks. We've had, I think there were old holding cells or old storage cells possibly for evidence. They're non-functioning areas in our department down the hallway. You swing a door open, it leaks in there. It leaks all the way down in our training room. I've had to have that carpet cleaned multiple times. We've had personnel express concerns about what if it molds down there, and then what are we being exposed to? It's come into our server room down there. Our servers are sitting up off the ground, which they probably should be anyways, but we had to put an alarm in our dead records room because that was getting water. Our building's old and it gets water. And I also want to mention it's a flat roof. So when we do bid that, it might be prudent for the council to also consider in the bid which companies are familiar with handling these flat roofs, because they do present some unique challenges. So it might not be best to necessarily go with the cheapest bid. It might be better long-term to look at somebody that's going to do it properly.
You had this bid out a couple of years ago.
2022, I believe,
And
or
you had-
23.
You received a few different quotes, ranged, I think, probably from 250-ish, 250,000 to 400,000 at that time.
If I remember right, there was one that came in just under 200,000, and then there was one in the mid 200s, and then there was another one that was like 400.
So we're trying to put enough here to give some flexibility we don't know what you'll get for bids, but you have a couple of other issues down there.
A couple other age-related issues, not necessarily. I would say on average, we probably have somebody in the building 3 times a year looking at our boiler system. just because it's not functioning properly. We'll have Enderlease come in and help us out and kick the machine and get it going again. But outside of that, we have the boiler system, which is very old, and then we have the generator, which is also very old. And those, like I said, those are age related. We have experienced a few issues, but mainly we'd like to address the age issue before we have a big issue.
And then you also had the generator?
Yeah, I touched on that briefly. The generator, if you drive by our police department and you see that little kind of, so it's like a storage shed looking thing. Our generator is placed in there, which is okay. The placement's fine. Doing a little bit of discussion because this was explored once before. They wanted to move the generator from that shed and put it on a concrete pad out behind the building, and then utilize that shed for additional storage space for larger items. Occasionally, we have evidence that takes up a large amount of space, be it a set of tires, a moped, a power equipment, or weed eaters or whatever. So it would be nice to have that extra space, but either way, I mean, I guess we would just have to see where the bids came in and make a decision on that. Where we wanted it located and what the additional cost might be for either position.
So we're looking to try to cover as much of that as we can, but I did want to work within the dollar amount that we had. And it wasn't like you couldn't, if need be, the following year, come back with a budget request on whether it's a boiler or the backup generator or what. That's different than what you've done before, but it is trying to use the local option sales tax way, and that does benefit our base operations, and is using it, structuring the flow of it the way it's intended to be, to go through the system.
That it? Well, I will get out of the way for Chief Gabe. Rose.
Hello. So on my sheets, it's broken down into 3 different categories. Like the first 3 pages are the administration of the fire department, as well as our line items. Then it covers the union portion of the budget, and then the final page is for KVAC. Not a lot of changes this year in our budget. I think I've changed 5 different things, 6 this year. The changes were in training this year. We knocked all that down back in 22 or 21. We cut like 30,000 out of our line items to try and help out during our general fund committee meetings. We're asking to raise that back up to 5,000 for training, and then also with the training goes the travel. We were at 2,000. We're asking to go to 3,000. Line item 6332, I guess I highlighted, but there's no change there. It just, we're already over budget this year. The tower truck, it had some significant repairs. Also, our engine 16 that we're hoping to move as a secondary truck as soon as our new pumper arrives, which is supposed to be the first week of February is what I'm being told, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. 16 is like once a month, it's up at the car barn getting something else put on it. So, but it's a 2008 truck. It's almost 20 years old already. So, next page. We actually knocked down the publications a little bit. We don't subscribe to the same subscriptions we used to. With digital content, it's not needed. The medical side of things, it seems like when they go in for their 18-month physicals, it seems like every time they go in, they're asking for more money each year. So we're just asking for another 1,000. Usually what we try to do is get half of them through one year, and then the next year, the other half try to go through, just to offset the cost a little bit. The other one on the protective clothing, same thing there. It's just everything keeps getting more expensive. When I asked him this year, he was talking about an 8% increase. So it's just, it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. Everybody keeps increasing everything. So we're just asking for more on that. And I think that's all I asked for as far as line item increases. No change really on the union side. That's just wages and benefits. Other than their pay raises that were negotiated, that's the only thing changing there. And then talking with Dan Tillman on KVEC, he asked for no changes this year as well.
Chief, can you tell us about your vehicle schedule? You've got the
Yeah.
truck expected in February. Can you give us background history of that?
Yeah,
As well as,
so on pumper trucks, the recommendation is you replace them every 20 years. I know this one's coming up on 20 years in 2028, but with the brand new ones coming in, we should be able to push that back a little bit. You know, it won't be used as much, so we'll try to milk it as long as we can. It's just a matter of, do we want to keep nickel and diming it, or do we want to try and do something different with it? We also have that white truck that we got from the insurance company. That seems like we use that just as much as 16, because 16's broke down a lot. So what's happening is they're putting a lot of electronics on them. It'd be nice if they just go back to a bunch of mechanical, right? You know, roll up the windows, no circuit boards, but you know, because what we want to do is when the bell rings, we want to be able to respond. And there's times like with our tower, you know, if the sensor isn't just right, you know, we got to do a manual to lift it and lower it. So it's just, but that's not realistic. You know, there's over 500 miles of wiring on these things anymore. So and the white one's a 2002. That's why it doesn't seem to break down as much as the newer one does. So.
well, when
but,
we get the new pumper truck in the next handful of months, what does that change for your fleet? Is it just a +1, or
No,
are we gonna
no,
look at
it's
moving
the
something else?
normal amount we have.
Okay.
So the reason the white one is there is because we were down the one that went through the flood. So this will actually make us whole, right? And so the two frontline trucks will both be 2025s. And we discussed that when we were talking about the aerial purchase. Because the one that's sitting out back now that we're looking to sell, that one was 30 years old. So this new one replaced that. I know there was some questioning on what, you know, with Jim on the budgeting of it. I'm not sure how all that happened, but we did discuss the cost of that, and it was approved by the council. And then what happens on the last portion of our insurance check, we'll make the final payment February or whenever the truck actually arrives in Urbana, Illinois, I guess is where we'll end up picking it up from, or I guess they'll drive it up here, but we'll make final payment probably in February at some time. So we'll have a 2025 pumper and a 2025 aerial as our front. Going out, we'll have a 2007 tower and a 2008 pumper for backups.
Jim, can you explain to us what happened with the fire truck payments over the last couple of years and what you discovered with this budget process?
And actually, there's nothing wrong with how it was budgeted as long as people were talking about it and understood. But you budgeted for, well, when you went to do the borrowing last year during the budget process, you knew you were expending to buy the new pumper truck or ladder.
Aerial, yeah.
In June. And so you got that purchase, or prior to the end of June. So you got that purchase last year. You didn't budget the expense in the current year. But you budgeted for the revenue to come in the current year, but we got the money in June, the previous year. That's not a huge deal. It just crossed over. But if you're relying on that 1.8 million to cover operations, you'd have been in trouble. I mean, that in and of itself, you were budgeting for a $2 million positive budget. The 1.8 million was just part of it. The truck that the other one that you're still waiting for making the final payment on here for 500,000, you budgeted for that. You knew that was going to be expense this year. Having a one-time expenditure for that is understandable. And I mean, you got an insurance payout for at least a portion of it last year. So
No, we received all of the truck like
the full amount last year.
in '24.
And so we got money way in advance. And you should have been spending down some cash for that.
Yeah.
Just so the bigger thing on that is did you understand what you're doing with it? And I mean, those things in and of themselves, they weren't the bigger issues with what our budget is. They just took us down from being way positive to being, a couple of 100,000 in the hole. It's the other one, the grants, that the way they were done with the projects, that really kind of screwed us in this year's budget.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
with the aerial, it was another city had backed out on the truck. And I think we discussed that, when we were going through that. So the reason I think we just use our own city coffers the way I understood it, but Emmanuel didn't tell me that for sure. But the bond wasn't supposed to come in until July. That's why we had to use our own coffers to actually get the truck purchased, because we had to sign, Kathy signed the intent to purchase and all that. So that's why I got finagled. I don't know what happened in the meantime, but we were waiting on the bond money. It sounded like it came in June instead of July.
How's your staffing levels currently?
Currently, we're fully staffed.
And what is that number at fully staffed?
19 counting me. So our breakdown is, so we have 3 shifts, A, B, and C, and it consists of 6 personnel, right? So there's an assistant chief, there's a lieutenant, and there's 4 firefighters on each shift. Our minimum staffing kicks in because most of the time you got somebody on paid time off of some sort. That's why we've always had a 5-man minimum to make sure it doesn't go below that, because, what our history was here, so. But that's essentially what it is. You got 5 guys trying to answer the calls every day. Not 18, just 5.
What are you doing with capital equipment purchases? Again, this is going to be in that same Fund 306.
Mine's around 80,000. So every year we do a revolving turnout gear and SCBA bottles. It's just so that, I don't show up one day and say, hey, I need 50 SCBA bottles, because I think they're running $1,700 a piece now. The turnout gear is $5,000 a piece. We try to replace them 3 each year just to keep the rotation going. Again, so I don't come in and ask for everybody to get a set all at once. So we got hit by the Windows 11 upgrade with 2 of our Panasonic tablets. They won't upgrade. They had 10, but they won't go to 11, so we can't use them. Those are for our frontline trucks. We need a deck gun for our new engine when it shows up. There's drop-down steps we need for cross-loading. The trucks, the way it's built, the truck is actually wider, but the standing portions for us to stand there and load the trucks, that's skinnier, so we need a step to add to those things just so the guys can stand there and load the trucks back up. Intake valves for each side of the new pumper. There's some shelving that was not included in the price, so there's another, what is that, $3,200 in shelving for it. We need 12 new sections of 1 3/4-inch fire hose. We need 4 2.5-inch fire nozzles. As far as property maintenance, our training room, the carpets just wore out. We're asking to get that. It's 400 square feet. We're trying to get some tiles type system like this put in there. A vent saw and a K12 saw, those are both over 20 years old. We've had a few problems with them, and they cannot produce replacement parts for it anymore. So we have to try and do something there. We're asking for 4 more hand lanterns, which are the big flashlights. Stokes basket, which is, it will go on the aerial. There's a slot there for one, but the current basket we have will not fit that slot. some wildland fire hose. Seems like every fall, the railroad is somehow creating fire on that bluff down there, and our regular hose is too bulky to try pull through the weeds and the brush and stuff like that. We're looking for it's basically like a lazy Susan for our jaws of life. The way they sit now, they get banged around in those compartments, and it's kind of beating up on the doors and knocking the paint off of it. You put them in the lazy Susan and you can kind of spin it around and select which one you want. And then a hose washer and a gear washer.
Laundry list.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for the past few years, we've kept coming in saying we're holding the line, and we're reaching a point where we got to start replacing things.
No, it's good. My thought on what should happen with facilities, you have to have your folks trained adequately. You have to have them equipped adequately.
I
You've got to
agree.
be able to do your job. Otherwise, you're just compromising everyone's safety.
So Gabe, when we had the first meeting just with you, and you had that same list, you had some that were top priority
Mhm.
compared to the others, so.
Yeah, I went from the top. I wrote it down on this sheet of paper with basically the top being the priority and lesser on the bottom.
Just ask.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And again, any equipment out of stuff, if there's concerns on from a budget perspective, I don't see any reason why any of this stuff should be cut. I think it should all be done.
Okay.
If there was any spot, one of the pieces of equipment that's going to come up in one of the later budgets that's still in the same line item is going to be one that Brian's going to be submitting, and that's the one that I think if you're going to have a discussion about a piece of equipment not being done, that you'll want to ask him about and have just a thought process on it. But he's looking at getting a Toolcat Bobcat that you can do a lot of different attachments to. And a big reason for doing that is the trail that we now have, and trying to having the appropriate equipment to make sure that you can clean it, get debris off of it, get bird droppings off of, get snow off of, depending on how you're looking to use that. And that's probably the piece of equipment that is the most, it's not a necessity for life safety, so it just makes the most sense for consideration of whether you're getting it or not. But what you guys are asking for all makes sense.
Anything else? Thank you.
What's next?
That I think is basically it for tonight. And I haven't been around this process, but
Yeah.
this is, from my understanding, is about the process that has been used traditionally here. These are the departments that present. Last year, I think it was 45 minutes that you went. The next budget session is Saturday morning. What are the topics that are being covered on that? So all of Public Works and City Hall?
The only question I have is, fire and police, capital budgets, do we get to see that list?
We can get that.
I mean, if we're gonna have discussions later on, can we at least see the capital list?
Do you have a better printout of your capital project list? Correct. Because the one that I had a lot of handwriting scrawls on it. It would be nice to have something that was presented to them that was, but yeah, we can get something that has it for the equipment that both chiefs are asking for. And there's not a tremendous amount of other equipment that's being asked for, but we can get that too.
Just like to look at it.
And Saturday morning, how long did that last year, you know?
I don't think any of them lasted as long as we expected. I think we said 8 to noon and we were out here 10:30 at the latest.
Oh, but this will cover that department very well. Thank you. This is 85,000. You just keep adding things? Uh-huh. And again, with what I'm doing in here, there is a total in this capital that I am trying to stay within, $733,000. It's kind of a magic number, just for how state borrowing rules work. And I'll play around between what's in the capital equipment and capital improvements and move that capital, the building itself down a little bit as needed. But we do have the ability over time, if additional facility needs are there, we can revisit that as a topic. We're going to be using a portion of local option and sales tax that is for infrastructure. We're budgeting that to go into the street program. But we do have the ability, if push comes to shove, and we've got a cost issue here for making like the roof work, and we need additional funding, we can adjust during the course of the year what gets transferred over to streets and reduce that a little and offset it over to this to cover it. Until that becomes an issue, I don't want to get caught up in it, but I do want to make sure that you get the equipment that you're trying to get. Because I think the equipment it's just mandatory, and I think your facility is a piece of junk. You can't be I can't get you into a new building, but if you're going to be there, it needs to be something that is adequate for you guys. So, if that makes sense. So, otherwise, I thank you and leave it up to council, mayor, if you
Nope.
have other
Are
things.
there other things that? This time? All right, seeing none.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming. All you guys out there.